Dawn Montefusco, and this is Right From Your Heart, how to unleash your creativity, share your message, and leave a lasting legacy. And today, we have not only one of my favorite people, but definitely one of my favorite clients. Not that I play favors, but I mean, really, he's amazing. His name is Knox Robinson, and he's a writer and a technical instructor at a semiconductor equipment manufacturing company here in Portland, Oregon. He is also the author of his memoir, Not a Through Street. As a California transplant for the last 20 years, Knox loves navigating the streets of Portland in the rainy weather and endless afternoons at Powell's Books. Yay! Hi, Knox. So great to have you.
Hi, Dawn. I'm doing great.
So tell us what kind of projects you're doing. What are you up to these days?
I am wrapping up my memoir. I'm writing some of the final chapters and looking at some of the ones I've written early on and seeing how I can improve them. Also, sending out queries to agents as well.
That's right. That's right. You're so great. When did you know that you wanted to write a book?
I think I've known for many years that I wanted to just capture some of the craziness that I was exposed to in my youth. And I think what really got me motivated to do this was participating in my mother's death and getting a hold of some of the crazy journals that she kept during some tumultuous times of my youth. That was really the impetus to get me started.
That's amazing. Not that anyone's ever had a crazy childhood.
Yeah, but how many of us have it actually documented?
so that's my point. Is like so many people we all know that many of us go through incredible abuse, neglect. You know, not because our parents meant it, so to speak, but because they didn't know any better. And so one of the things I want to say is like we get into this place where we sort of almost forgive too quickly, if you will. Not that we shouldn't forgive, but in today's society, it's like, yeah, well, you know, your parents went through what their parents went through, what their parents went through. And that doesn't mean that it's not something that we have to contend with in this life. You had this crazy experience where you had privy to your mother's journals and therapy notes, and you were brave enough to say, oh my God, this has got to be written down. When did you go, I don't care what anybody says, I'm writing a book about this?
As soon as I opened up the very first one of the notebooks, just seeing it, I guess what really hit me is just reading her handwriting and just some of these very short, pithy statements about, you know, how she felt about things, and just being very succinct, curt, and in my opinion, dismissive of things that really had some impact on my life. And I want to go back to what you said about, you know, people saying, oh, well, she was just going through what her parents went through. Why make a big deal about it? And I'm not discounting that, but that I will not accept that type of comment from anybody else. They never went through what I went through. And I would never be so bold to say something like that to somebody else. Oh, get over it. Happened a long time ago, that sort of thing. And as far as forgiveness, you know, my forgiveness is fleeting at best. For a long time, there was zero forgiveness, right? Wow. I held my mother fully accountable for what she did to me and my siblings. Who's to say what's going to happen at the end, right? But, you know, I'm in charge of my forgiveness and no one else. And I get to decide when is the right time for me to extend it, and it may never happen. And I am at peace with that, because right now, I think you and I talked about this early on, I'm kind of using my quote unquote anger as my energy. So I'm focusing all of that on writing it. I'm no longer focusing on myself. It now has taken this form of this magnificent writing project that you know I've been working on for years now.
And the majority of the writing, just so you say, I know it's been years, but it's been 2 years, 3 years?
3 years now.
3 years. But the majority of your writing, you were very consistent. First, I want to say you had never written a word of it, right? And you came and you said, I have this idea. And I was like, okay, let's look at it and let's start here and let's go. When you start with such an intense project, especially what you went through and the memoir, there were moments where we had to pause and we had to look at what's coming up, because sometimes you didn't want to write about it, or sometimes it was too much, or sometimes you're like, I don't know, life is lifing me. And there was a couple of sessions in there where we just went into life coaching. We went into what's coming up, what are the blocks, what's the emotional resistance. And then that popped, and then your writing just took off. I mean, you started to really dive in fast. Can you talk about the difficulties of writing something so personal at first and how you overcame them?
I think some of the topics that I found in my mom's journals were upsetting to me, because they brought up things that, like I said, were deeply impactful for me, and yet obviously not her. So I think I was also minimizing how I felt about this stuff. And I think you caught on early because I was kind of skating around it. You used to tell me things, tell me more and go deeper. Those were two things that are constantly playing in my head, right? So I don't even need to have a session with you anymore as far as presenting something, because I always remember now, oh, I need to go deeper. So I think when you started seeing that I was having resistance, one of the ways that I showed resistance was I wasn't writing. I came up with excuses. I decided, well, I'm not writing this week because I'm transcribing mom's journals, or I'm doing this. I would do anything other than write. And that was the time we were really getting into some of these topics that were disturbing to me. And I think the breaks we took, like you mentioned, to focus on what the emotions was bringing up, and once I got a handle on, you know what, I have buried these for so long. They're coming up. I don't like it. But once I got to the point, I realized, well, what don't I like about it? And be able to express that in words, that was life-changing for me. And then that's like the floodgates opened. That's when I really started writing.
I just got chills because you took me back in time. Yes.
Yeah, you and I, all that work we did. Oh, it's been tremendous. I've told you this many times. I'm a different person now.
Yeah. So that's my next question. How has writing helped you heal your past?
Oh, it's taken this static, this amalgam mess that was in my head of just these different emotions and feelings that I had. And what it did, it organized them. Because once I got them on the page, if I was feeling, if I wanted to know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that once I had them organized, I just would go back to that chapter and I could relive it and then think, that's what happened. That I have just documented a very traumatic experience of my life, and I have freed myself, because now, even though you and I are only sharing this information now, soon it's going to be out there, and I've set it free.
Yes, I love that. You know, you give me chills again. It's funny. There was a line that you know, I kind of took it for granted. It was a quote that I told you about and that you put on your vision board, and I never really, I don't think it gelled as perfectly as it did. And then it was a aha for me too, which is, it's Tom Robbins, who wrote he wrote Jitterbug Perfume. He wrote all kinds of things. I'm making a block. I've read all of his books. Half Asleep in Frog Pajamas, Jitterbug Perfume, and Only Cowgirls Get the Blues, some of his famous works. But he wrote a quote that says, "It's never too late to have a happy childhood." And
now, if I were to pick up my computer and bring it over to my vision board,
it's so organized. I love it.
I'm not sure you can actually see it.
That's okay. Just point.
It's right. It's going to be impossible. It is there in the center. It's just my computer.
I see it. No, it's the yellow one right above
my computer. Yeah, I'm going to point to it. It's right.
Yeah. That was it. Keep going.
Anyway.
Finger. It's right above the amazing one. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. No, I saw it clearly. Tell us what that means to you now, because I know that for me it was like, oh, I'm allowed to rewrite everything. Not like rewrite it like everything was fine, but to go, whoa, so everything up until now made me who I am, and that's okay? You know, and then I was like, oh my God, that's better than okay. But what did it mean to you?
like so many things in writing this memoir, for me, it's been a process. And the reason I cut that out, because you and I were talking about, and you mentioned that to me. And then I guess seeing it for the first time just kind of struck me. It's like, oh my God, I have permission. I can grant myself the ability, like you said, I'm rewriting. It's not me not rewriting, it's more of a documentation and rediscovery of what I went through, and realize, wow, I can now bring or kind of accompany myself through reliving my childhood now. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just that.
Yes, you accompany yourself to reliving your childhood.
Right, and so
that's where you are now. You get to go home and hang out with the Knox who didn't know what was going on.
Right. Yes. I get to accompany him now on this journey. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. When did you first realize that language had power? Like, when did you? I mean, I don't. That could happen anytime in your life. I'm just curious from a writer's perspective.
I think it was I was writing one chapter that was very significant to me, and I just remember the words came almost automatically, and as I just typed them down, and I think the first couple paragraphs, I realized, oh my God, can this really be true? Can I really just write these 3 paragraphs that represent a snapshot of my youth, of what I was feeling and what I was experiencing? And the answer was yes. I can really use words to my advantage to basically describe what this 5-year-old kid was feeling back in 1967. That's when I realized how much words had power. I will tell you though, I wish that I had a larger vocabulary. I know you and I have talked about this before. I live with thesaurus.com open, I got to tell you.
I can tell, because by the way, I don't understand some of his words sometimes.
But you know, it's funny because my mother, being the school teacher that she was, I remember. So a lot of the words that that you and I have discussed came naturally to me. Other ones I had to fish for. So some of the ones that you mentioned, it's like, oh, no, those are the ones that I actually know.
That's good.
And I think, you know, as we continue, and I continue to write, you know, I'm in awe just of how powerful words can be. And I'm not done. I'm still discovering it as things go on. I probably will never be done discovering the power. Yeah. But it, you know, once the discovery was made, then I realized that I have limitless possibilities now.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Totally. We're such the creators. That's what I think is so bizarre a world that some people don't get. Like they're so worried. This goes great into the next question. They're so worried about what they should write. They're so worried about what everybody's going to think about what other people want. Or, yeah, I don't know, maybe, you know, people hem and haw. And I really see this a lot. Like they're so stuck on what someone else wants them to write, or the safe road, or what's acceptable. They don't even, that's where they get stuck. They get stuck because they don't write what they want to write. What's really, truly like creating out of them. So if you say like, we're individual, unique beings, completely unique, which is mind blowing. Billions of us, totally unique. Now the message might be similar. We've got there's lots of messages, but the messengers are very different and their experiences are totally unique. So if you have a message, say very general, I want to forgive my past. I was brought up in a neglectful or abusive home. I want to change my life. I want to transform. We've got lots of information on that from 5,000 years ago in like Western or Eastern world, Eastern philosophies. But since the messenger is always unique and always different, if we tune in to our hearts, right from your heart, if we tune into what's really going on and we express from our personal point of view, we then transform, we become very strong writers. You're an incredibly strong writer when you let go of what you should do and then did what you really, I really want to say this. I've heard you say, I just want to say this. Say it. I'm like, wait, what? You didn't write that down on our calls.
Yes.
I have. And like, that's what you should say. Say it. Like, let's say it that way. So what how would you possibly, let's do this because it's totally doable. Give advice to somebody out there who's listening. I know you're listening. And they're stuck in the shoulds, but they know what they want to write. What would you say to them?
Ooh, I would say pick something that has a situation or a memory that has a lot of power, and just go with it. You know, that's how some of the chapters started with you and I, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me initially, I had difficulty trying to decide where to start. So I think even before I contacted you, I was like, I want to do this. I have no idea where to begin. And then once you and I started, that's what I did. I picked, okay, I got to start somewhere. So I'm going to pick something that I've been thinking about recently. And that's where I'm going to start.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to ask you a question that pertains to my coaching and just out of curiosity. What is it about our talk sessions? So you send me some work to read, usually a chapter, 7 to 10 pages. We read it. And then we have our sessions. What helps you in those sessions?
First of all, you give perfectly honest feedback. So I know that, for example, if I have written too much about something in particular that doesn't belong here, you'll say, you know, it's too much, doesn't belong here. And I think we trust each other. Yeah. So I trust that you are going to give me the feedback necessary to give even more power out of what I am writing.
Here's the other question I have, just to piggyback. I don't necessarily mean even now, the next question, with me. What is it about talking out?
Oh, well, I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I use it. I don't know about everybody, and you probably know more about this than I do. I use a totally different part of my brain when I'm writing versus listening. So you've read things back to me, and I thought, oh no, that sounds awful. But then you have read things back to me, and I thought, oh my God, did I write that? Yeah. I can't believe it. I'm hearing somebody else's voice using my words, and I am stunned sometimes. And that really transformed me. It's like, you know what, if I can write something like that, then I can finish this book.
Totally.
There's nothing I can't write.
There's something about support. I mean, I get it from my accountability buddy and from my colleagues and from a coach. There's something about support with writing that I think really is totally different than what we thought, which is that you write alone, you write a great book, you get it out there, and you're all set. And now that I've studied it so much, I realize all the great writers actually had buddies, colleagues, and people that they went to, and they talked out their book. They talked out their chapters. They had there was such a support system. And I feel like in America, particularly, we're so loners, right? We do everything by ourselves. We're alone. And coaching, I'm so glad that coaching is even in the world now, because now we realize we're not supposed to do it alone. You know, getting the support we need and writing it with someone, having someone to bounce things off of, myself included, and everybody, regardless of its coaching, if you just have that, I don't know about you, but I think it's awesome. I think that is something that all writers out there should really understand. You're not supposed to do it alone.
Right.
Like it really sucks when you're writing by yourself and then all your feedback is from you. I don't even know. Like, how do people deal with it? And then the worst is if you go out into the world and the feedback is from somebody who knows nothing about writing, right? So say you go out someone, I know it's happened to me, and I start telling them and they go, no one's going to want to read your book. It's my mother's voice, by the way.
I have heard people say that to me.
Yeah. No one's going to want to read your book. Who are you? And then you look at all the crazy memoirs and stuff that's out there from people who nobody knows who they are, but they know their books now because they some of these books have been made into movies, and these were not famous people, So I just want to have you give a shout out to anybody who's out there. Find anyone, just to help you through the process.
Yeah, it's just interesting though. There have been individuals that I thought would be receptive that ended up not being so. And I think I realized that I think they were not receptive because they themselves have a story to tell, and they didn't know where to begin. And they were thinking, well, how can you do this when I feel that I can't? And it didn't, that wasn't the gist of the conversation. It was more like what you said earlier. Well, who's going to read? Who are you? Who's going to read that? And I have to tell you that I laugh every time that I hear that now, thinking, I really wrote it for me.
Oh, wow.
And that is the audience number one. But you keep telling me, and I feel it now, that your one line to me that really sticks with me is, this book is going to change at least one person's life.
Yes.
Well, first of all, it has totally changed mine. And to think that it could change someone else's, I mean, I would do a disservice by not getting it out there. Exactly. So I don't listen to any more naysayers whatsoever.
I love it. Oh my gosh. So what would you tell someone that's afraid? That's someone that's really just, I mean, they've got so much and they've gone past it, right? They're not stuck in their pain, because that's not a place to write from. Mm-hmm. They're past it. They're looking back and they're like, wow. And they have a calling to do it, right? It's not just, they go, God, I really want to write that book. I really, really want to write that book. I don't know. I'm scared. What would you say to the person to motivate them to just say, fuck
well,
it?
I am the perfect example of someone who needed a lot of motivation. So, my fear of getting started was that I was not going to be able to write something coherently that anybody else would want to read. So then I think I started that, you know what, if my audience is me, or I'm writing to my best friend, and I'm trying to give her some insight into what I went through. So that's what I decided to do, is I was writing for one other person. They were my audience.
Yes.
And I know her very well. And I thought, you know what, since she knows me so well, I'm going to reveal all the things that the person I know better than anybody else in the world, she doesn't really know all this stuff. So that was my opportunity to go deeper and to reveal myself. Yes. And then I think after that first time of getting that first short chapter done, I thought, there it is. Now, you and I worked on it quite a bit to craft it. And you always said to me that crafting was the most fun and enjoyable part. And that was so true. I think about some of the chapters where they are now and everything we went through, right? The process has just been amazing. So my advice to the person who hasn't started yet, start.
Yes. And are you too late?
I know that sounds so lame, doesn't it? Just start.
No, are you too old to write? Like, that's another thing that I do. I like working with people over 40. I like to say, no, we have the experience. It is never too late to write your book. Ever.
You know, that's a great thing. I don't know where that comes from. I mean, I do a lot of things in my life just because I want to do. I don't even think about how old I am sometimes.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't know what age would possibly have to do. I could never have written this earlier in my life. It's simply not possible.
Yes.
My age caught up to the point where I could write this book.
I love that.
My age is an asset to me, never a hindrance.
You're so great.
Sweetie, I couldn't give two shits about how old I am. You can edit that out. I don't care.
No, I'm not editing anything out. You're amazing. All right. Well, I was going to say, what inspiration would you like to leave the audience with? But I think you just did.
Fair enough.
Do you have any last words? Throw it out there. We all hear it.
I owe it all to you.
No.
I wouldn't be here without you. I love you. You're fantastic.
I didn't expect that. You're the best. So thank you. Keep writing.
My pleasure. Oh, yeah.
Do it. And soon enough, on your bookshelves, you're going to see Knox Robinson, author of his amazing, by the way, I got to just say this on the side so that Knox doesn't hear me. Seriously, he found his mother's therapy notes and journals, and from beginning of time, and it was his son who got to listen to them and then write a book about all the stuff that happened to him, and in a way that is so amazing. I'm telling you, you're going to want to read this book. And that is just the truth. Everybody else, don't tell him that I said that. Okay. Love you so much. Have a great time. I can't wait for next time and for all the stuff in between. You're the best. Thank you for being on the show, Knox.
Thanks so much, Dawn.
Okay, bye.
Bye.